Hi, yeah, I'm Dave, and I'm a transpersonal psychotherapist, co-founder of the Hope Movement, and we create and facilitate workshops for men and women to just explore some of the mental health struggles that we all come across and we all find ourselves in, and yeah, I mean that's what we do ultimately.
Fabulous.
As the Hope Movement.
I'm Sam Faulkner. I'm a life coach, and I'm the founder of the Refocus retreats, which help women find their purpose, understand their motivations and values, and then equally with men, we talk about emotional regulation and techniques on how we can enhance that and help them.
Thank you, Sam. I'm Dave Dennis. I am a coach, help people with addiction problems. I also I'm a mindfulness coach and a second degree Reiki healer or therapist, if you like.
Super. So you guys are all about wellness and mental health. Why is it so important for us to be responsible or take action when it comes to our mental health?
So there's quite a few reasons, but mostly I think it's really important that you take responsibility of your own mental health, because you have a duty to understand yourself. So if you don't understand yourself and what's going on for you, then it's very difficult for anyone else to understand you. So there's a few ways we can do this. One-to-one therapy and group work. I prefer group work. I think it's really powerful, and one-to-one therapy goes alongside that. And to start with is to look at yourself and what you're bringing, who you are, and most of us are holding some kind of pain or shadow, we call it, some stuff in the shadows. So once we start to understand that and learn that about ourselves, we're better able to inform those around us, people we're in relationship with, people that we're at work with, our children. So yeah, to begin with, it's looking after yourself and learning about yourself in order to be able to inform people around you who you are and what you do.
So I would say it's probably better to turn that question around the other way and kind of say, like, where is me not being able to regulate my emotions or me not looking after my mental health affecting the people around me, and who is it affecting? So if you think about that in terms of a work sense, do you leave tasks unfulfilled? Are you grouchy at work? Are you your authentic self at work? Can you really be the person that you want to be? Are you fulfilling your needs as an individual, your purpose, your passion? And all of that, if you're not doing any of that, that all comes down to not knowing how to emotionally regulate, or maybe not necessarily fulfilling yourself in terms of your mental health issues, and not looking after yourself properly in terms of the mental health side of it. And that then has a massive effect on who you become as a person and your self-esteem. And ultimately, it's a domino effect, because when your self-esteem's low and you're not fulfilling your potential, you will then not get the opportunities that you deserve to have as an individual. So coming back to this idea of looking after your mental health or understanding your emotional regulation, they're very entwined and very interlinked. So I would say it's desperately important for your professional well-being to be able to understand yourself and know how your mental health is affecting the people around you.
Thank you, Sam. Just going to continue from what you were saying there, Sam. I spent 25 years of my life in active addiction, I did. And that really showed me what my mental health, the state of my mental health, what impact that had on the people around me. And it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. through that process and getting better, you know, it really showed the importance of me putting my mental health first before I tried to help anyone out. And there's a good friend that's here, and then I heard him use this analogy about, do you know, you're on a plane and the oxygen mask drops, and they say, put your own oxygen mask on first before you help anyone else. And that sort of stuck with me, that did, about, you know, we can't help anyone else really until we feel better ourselves.
So just going on from what you guys have all said about obviously helping yourself first and, you know, empowering and who you surround yourself with, how can we support and empower each other? So that's women for men and men for women, because it is important that, you know, we are supporting each other and we are there for each other, because, you know, mental health is good and bad. You know, it's not just all bad when it comes to mental health, but it is very important who we surround ourselves with and how we support each other. So how can we support and empower each other?
Yeah, so there's no one size fits all, that's for sure. So there's lots of different areas to look at here. So if you're supporting a daughter, it may look very different to how you support or empower your wife. Again, going back to what we were saying before, depending what you're bringing into the relationship. So, for example, if I have a daughter, my relationship as a father to her may look very different to my wife's relationship to her father. And so it may not necessarily work the same way. It might not work for my wife to act the same way as I would act with my daughter. And then that would continue into work situations, friendship situations, and things like that. So I think one really important thing, again, it often goes back to, am I communicating who I am? Am I communicating what I've experienced? Do you know me well enough to know how I react to these things? The people I'm bringing, like from the past, my mother, my father, into every situation, and vice versa, and just really being able to, again, first, if I can communicate that to myself, then I've got a chance of communicating that to those around me.
That's a really difficult question. And I think when it comes to supporting others, sometimes when you have a close family member, a spouse, partner, who you feel is struggling, and when I say struggling, so you'll see symptoms, so you'll see things like hazardous drinking, or you'll see them binge eating, or you'll see them not fulfilling their potential, or you'll see, notice things where they're not necessarily telling the truth. And there's all little symptoms that come up where you can see that they're not necessarily looking after their mental health or, regulating their emotions in the right way. They might get very addicted to stuff. And you worry about them, right? You worry about your partner, you worry about your children when these things happen, and you think, oh, it's going to get worse, or you don't know what to do. And sometimes you're too close to it. And I think it's not always on you to fix it. But I think if you have somebody who is a family member that you are concerned about, then I think the best thing to do in that case is help them find ways to connect and find things that they love to do and help them connect to that. Now, you don't need to connect to it. It doesn't need to be your passion. It doesn't need to be your joy. But if you can find where they have these elements of joy, so if you see them be very passionate about something, and then you can let them go off and have freedom within that area, you don't have to do those things together. It's not up to you to ensure that they are, an expert in that area, but send them off to do it, give them the freedom and help them find those links. And it's exactly the same with kind of occupational. So, for example, if you are struggling within your occupation, if it brings you down, if you get to the end of the week and you're just feeling like really rubbish, this is not fulfilling me at all, you reach for the wine after work because you're stressed and that's your way of regulating. Start thinking about people within your organisation that you see have passion and have purpose, and it's something that you can link to, and go and talk to them. So if we look at myself as an example in terms of kind of professional life and my career, you know, I've found people outside of my really close circle that have pushed me and driven me and helped me. You know, these two for one, George as well. You know, going to them with an idea, with something that I was passionate about, and they don't know me very well, but we connected on that, and then that enhanced me to do more and want to do more, and sometimes it's the people that aren't closest to you that can hold the vision, and they're the ones that will actually hold it for you, whereas somebody that's closer to you will have seen you go through a number of trials and tribulations and sometimes can find that a little bit harder. So it doesn't necessarily need to be, you know, your partner that gets you there, but your partner can say, why don't you go and find somebody with the same passion as you and go for it? So I think just knowing that you can connect and finding someone you can connect with and indulging in that is a really good way of actually getting yourself out of a slump or a down patch.
Thank you, Sam. So yeah, I'm thinking about that question. I'm going to come from it from the place of me and my wife. My wife's been with me for 26 years, so she's been with me for all the madness. And I'm really simple in my approach to these things, you know. And like the first thing that comes to my head was just honesty. You know, honesty, kindness, compassion, a little bit of care, knowing when to talk, knowing when to support, knowing when to shut my mouth, because I talk too much and I can say the wrong thing, and sometimes she doesn't need that. She just wants me to listen, and sometimes I don't need that and I just want to be heard. And it's just it's feeling that sometimes, you know, setting out time aside to have the conversations, to find the space to support each other. And I think a big one for me is just accepting that I'm not perfect. And I'm saying this not because I'm an expert, it's just my experience. I'm not perfect in any way, and neither is she. And I think sometimes if I can bring that into my life, into my space with my wife, you know, then, and with anyone really, with anyone, you know, male, female, anyone, then it just it helps me a little bit. I don't put so many expectations on people. Yeah, so it's yeah, but all those sort of things, you know, the kindness, the care, the honesty, the patience, all those sort of like principles, you know, that can just be there. Like Sam said, I can't fix anything sometimes. All I can do is just be there and support. You know, sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. You know, and you know, and getting someone that knows a little bit more about it.
So just an added question. Obviously, you guys do similar but different things. How did you get into what you're currently doing?
So I got into what I'm currently doing through experience. It was through a relationship breakdown. So, you know, I had my own breakdown in that. And this is where not knowing what was going on underneath for me, it caught up with me in the end. So I thought I was doing okay. I thought everything was good. And it was in the breakdown of a relationship that I found myself seeking help and finding myself in enough desperation to say, just whatever it is, help me. Which was a very, very difficult thing for me to do at the time, which was 10 years ago now. But what I did learn was underneath, I was a scared 8-year-old boy. That's what was happening for me, but I didn't realize that because I was in a man's body. So once I was given the space and the permission to check this out and really understand this, I was able to change myself for myself and for those around me. And it was in that moment that I understood that this is something that I wanted to do as well. I wanted to learn how to do this, how to hold this space for people, how to basically give us all an opportunity to know ourselves on a deeper level, which allows us to know each other on a deeper level. And so, yeah, that was my way in it, and that's how I started to assist on workshops done a diploma and started to facilitate and create these workshops.
So, how did I get into it? So, this is a really interesting thing, especially when it comes to therapeutic practice, therapists. A lot of the time, it's from trauma. So, there's a brilliant concept called the wounded healer. And basically, you go through the dark night of the soul and you come out, and whatever has helped you, you then want to go on because you've had that experience, right? It could be a relationship breakdown. It could be a breakdown because you've had too much stress at work. There's a number of things that can trigger it. And we've all got trauma. Every single one of us. There's not one of us that's escaped it. And it could be something that somebody else would see so minor, or somebody would see it as, dangerous, scare and really hurtful trauma. But it doesn't matter. There's no scale. It doesn't differentiate. Trauma is trauma at the end of the day. And actually, the trauma that you faced is probably the most wonderful thing if you can get to know it and understand it and delve into it, because it will turn into your purpose and it will turn into your passion. So equally, how Dave kind of went through his relationship breakdown and he went through all of that and then came out of it and was like, I want to hold space for this. That's led on to him having his passion. And this is why it's a cycle. So this is why I always say, if you have somebody that you really care about and you can see that there's a pain there, there's the symptoms whereby they're not necessarily on their A game and you want to help them, but going to the trauma is going to be too painful, then try and go to the purpose. Try and find what they love, because it will all be connected and eventually they'll be able to hone themselves in on it. Because if you can face your trauma, you will come out a lot brighter, a lot lighter, and you'll be doing much better work.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, for me, what brought me to do what I'm doing is the addiction, is drug use. It was really heavy, lots of it. And when I managed to get clean, there was nothing then to dumb my mind down, to slow me down. There was no substances that could take me away from myself. So my head was like a washing machine, constantly on the go. And I needed to find a healthier way to help myself. That's when I discovered the mindfulness. I was either living in past, telling stories about where I was and what I was doing, or I was thinking about my future, and I could never remain just right here now. And through the process of practicing, having a mindfulness practice, that led me into then becoming a teacher or a coach, if you like, in the mindfulness. That then sent me on to some of the attitudes around the mindfulness, sent me on further then to look at more healing. Talked about that trauma. This journey then triggered a path, and I followed it. And through being around some lovely people, doing some sound baths and some yoga, some Kundalini yoga and stuff like that, I stumbled upon the Reiki, and I've always felt an energy around me, always felt an energy in spaces, but never quite sure what that was. And through putting myself into a journey of healing and looking after myself from a well-being, I come into the Reiki, and put myself through the first 2 levels of that. And hopefully go on to the Master Reiki course. Yeah.
Amazing. So I want to put it to you guys. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? I know we all deal with mental health and, it affects each and every day of our lives in different ways. No 2 days are the same. And, it can really be that the things that we experience in life, because I know for myself as well as a youth mentor and the other stuff that I do in the community, it is turning that pain into purpose. Things that I never had when I was growing up is now what I want to give back to the community and supporting them and creating that lasting change. So does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask our amazing panelists?
Hi guys. I'm also someone that struggled with my mental health growing up, having anxiety and not really knowing what anxiety was or even having any knowledge on how to manage it. But now that I am aware and I have the knowledge and the power to move forward and inspire others to work on their mental health, what would you advise me to do for my community who are I'm from a Somali background, who are also other people that don't have much knowledge on mental health, and we kind of like brush things on the carpet. What would you advise me to do to help my people? Also, you spoke about addiction, and that's something very common in my culture as well. Not my culture, but my community. There's a lot of like drug-induced psychosis, and it's not really spoken about. It's kind of like hidden again. So what would you advise me to do? What programs could I start as a youth worker? Do you have any advice for me? Thank you very much.
So, well done. Well done for asking the question. You know, you suffer with anxiety, just grab the mic and say that. It's amazing. Well done, you. And, just start. Just start something. Look, look for the people. Look what's already going on out there. Look who can you link up with? Who can you bring in? What experience you get? Because what I found was I had an idea, but I didn't know where to go with it. I didn't know what to do with it. I had the passion. I knew I wanted to do something, but wasn't quite sure. So, like for me, I have to go and ask for help somewhere. See what's going on. Go and touch down, make a phone call, send an email, ask, and then get some guidance. You know what I mean? Get some guidance. But if you've got it inside just to do that, it will happen. Well done.
So I would say there's a couple of things there. Isn't anxiety a really strange thing? It's a horrible thing, and really bizarre and really annoying. But I think first and foremost, the most wonderful thing about women and womanhood is that we tell stories. Yeah? If somebody has told me something about their anxiety that solved them, guaranteed 7 women within my group will know about that because I will have shared that. And that's a great thing. So just telling your story will help. Talking about taboo subjects like anxiety, like addiction, like induced psychosis, takes a lot of bravery. And I think if you can be vulnerable and if you can speak your truth, and if you're brave enough to do it, just in that, you'll start attracting a community of people. You'll start hearing from people that really want to share their stories too and have fears around that. Because, drug taking, it has a massive effect. It filters down and down and down, and it affects every single part of our lives. And, a lot of the time we're doing it is just because, we haven't been taught any other way to regulate. We don't realise, but there's so much shame that surrounds it. So discussing it, openly, even with family members, or even, with friends sometimes, it can be really, really difficult. So if you can deflect that and tell your story, or talk about the effects, or talk about the symptoms around it, then that will get people to be more enticed with what you're saying, connect to you, and then hopefully you'll be able to find a solution.
Yeah, thank you. Also, set up a space. If you can set up a space in the community, and not just for the youth, for the elders as well. The elders need that space. So if you can just set up a space, it may start with 2 people, may grow to 3, may not. It doesn't matter. Just set up the space, and if the space is there for those that it's there for, we'll be eternally grateful. Sometimes in the beginning, just a space for someone to hear you will be really, really useful and important. And failing that, there are spaces in the wider community that you'd be more than welcome into. So if there's a struggle to create a space in your own community that you want to create it in, encourage people to visit the wider community and the spaces that are available.
Amazing. Well, can we give them a round of applause? Thank you guys so much.